let's explore the next move, whether a business ownership or another path that fits their goals. None other than Miss Stephanie Corbett.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Miss Stephanie on Abstract Essay, and can you please introduce more about yourself? That's all
Yes,
may.
yes, absolutely. So, as you said, my name is Stephanie Cordes. I'm a career ownership coach with the Entrepreneur Source. I left I left my corporate career after 20 years, looking for something different, something more satisfying, something that would leave me happier at the end of the day. And now what I do is I help people through the same process that I went through, setting goals and exploring all the different possibilities to help them achieve the life that they've been dreaming for.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Stephanie.
Mhm.
Thank you. And today let's talk about the corporate escape plan. How to pivot without losing security or confidence. So tell us, Miss Stephanie, what was the defining moment or series of events that made you realize corporate escape was necessary, and how do you distinguish it from just a bad week at the
Yeah,
office?
that's a great question. So for me, it really was a series of events. One of the first thing that happened was one of my children was diagnosed with an acute health condition, a very serious health condition, one that we didn't know that she would survive, and that if she did survive, she would have chronic issues for the rest of her life. She was my eldest child, and I had two others, and so this so was something that just immediately put all of our lives into turmoil, as you can imagine. And I can tell you from that exact moment, I didn't know that I needed to leave the corporate world, but all of my desire to climb up the corporate ladder immediately just disappeared. Um, I knew that I wanted to continue doing good work, of course, but my desire to climb the ladder was totally gone. So that was the start of it for sure. And what happened after that was once we kind of navigated that acute period and settled into more, this is a chronic issue now, and there's going to be appointments and dealing with kind of the aftermath and figuring out how to move forward for myself, for my other children, for my husband with his work. That's when over a few years, it occurred to me that I was not going to have satisfaction anymore in the corporate world, and that success is no longer what I thought it was. Um, and I think you get those feelings sometimes when you come face to face with something large like that in your life, like potential loss of a child, or something debilitating happens to your child. Also, I became sick myself. I developed a chronic illness, and it just felt like everything was just getting too heavy. And even though I was fortunate to have a good support system at work, and they were very good with me, and I continued to be able to deliver, I started to wonder, would I be able to continue being able to function at the high level that I was at? And I realized I don't think I can continue to perform at this level, and I really don't want to. So, what else can I do?
What else that you can do? That's a great question, Miss
Mhm.
Stephanie. So Without losing security, how do you define or redefine security from steady paycheck to something more sustainable and empowering?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. You know, I think that your career is really just the engine of how you live your life. So I wanted to find a different engine. And I still needed an income. At the time, I was the major breadwinner in the family. However, my husband was also very successful and earned a good living. It's just that over time, I had actually doubled his earnings. So that was something I had become very proud of, and he was proud of it too. And I was reluctant to give that up. But by the time I hit that milestone, I was ready to give it up. But I still needed an income, as you can imagine. Most households in the United States are two household families. So, what I did was I just started looking for new jobs because that's all I knew. That's all most of us know. And I interviewed for positions. I figured that I would not really like most of these positions and that I would be bored within a year or probably unhappy. I knew the grass was always greener somewhere else. But I knew I needed a change, and it's all I need to do. But something really incredible happened. While I was interviewing for jobs, I actually met a career ownership coach. And he took me through the process, which I now take my own clients through, which is a process based on education, awareness, and discovery, where first you start with what are your goals for the future? And that's really powerful because no one had asked me that in a really long time. And we should all stop and ask ourselves those questions. Because the last time someone had asked me that, it was before I was married, it was before I had children. And once those things happen, the whole world changes. So it's amazing when you do that and your lens for life has changed and what's important to you has changed. Before, when I was younger, I would have said, I want to climb the corporate ladder, I want to make X amount of dollars. That's success to me. But now, once I have a family and children and health issues, I realize work life balance is the most important thing. Spending time with my family is the most important thing. Being with my friends is important. So, taking that time to assess that is very, very important. And then once we did that, we looked at all the different ways that people can generate revenue. And like many people, and by the way, when we did this, I was still working. So to answer your question, how do you look at other options while still keeping a paycheck? This is a process that I engage with people while they're still working, if they happen to be working. I work with many people that are unemployed. But for many people like myself at the time, I still had a job. So I was doing this research and going through this process while I still had a job. And I think that's important because you can make a plan. If you're fortunate enough to still be employed, you can make a plan while you go through this process. So, we look at all the different ways that people can generate revenue. And if you like, I can talk to you about the different ways people can, look at the different vehicles of success and different ways they can reach their goals.
Interesting, Ms. Stephanie. So, what does the confidence refer to, and what is the first practical steps to rebuild if for someone who feels their corporate identity is all they have?
Well, so the very first step, and we've got some great tools to help with that, is to, again, think about what your goals are for the future. What are your opportunities? What are your strengths? What are those things that are important to you? What were things that were important to you in the past and maybe went away? Those are practical steps. And then what we do is we take those and we create something called a North Star statement. And in your North Star statement, there might be some short-term goals, some things you want to do in the next year, and there also might be some longer-term goals. And the reason why the North Star statement is so important, because you can use it as a measuring stick. And you can take all the different possibilities that you assess for your future and hold them up against the North Star like a measuring stick to make sure that at the very least you're directionally aligned as you go forward with those goals. So that's definitely a place that we start. We always start at the beginning. And then when we talk about the different places, the different types of things that you can do to reach those goals, we call them vehicles of success. There's a lot of things you can do. Maybe the best thing for a person to do is to be in that W-2 world, but maybe you're just in the wrong job. So when we talk about career ownership, like I'm a career ownership coach, that just means that it's about taking control of the path that you're on, even if it's a W-2 job. So many of the people that I work with, once we go through all the vehicles of success, they decide a W-2 is the right path for them. They're just in the wrong job. And that gives them a sense of ownership once they realize that okay, I'm in the right vehicle, I'm just in the wrong job. Other paths to ownership are things like sometimes people realize they can achieve their goals through a real estate investments or stock investment strategies. Perhaps that would help them achieve their goals for income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity. Other types of things people do, sometimes people like to sell things on Amazon and make things and sell them on Etsy. Or if there's a business down the street for sale, they could look into buying that. Another option that some people choose to look into is what would it be like to run a new iteration of a business model that's already running successfully across the country. So that's called franchising. So we can walk through that too and learn about all the types of business models and industries and learn all about that different type of business model and what that entails. And I myself am a franchisee of the Entrepreneur Source.
How do you advise people to mentally and financially break free from the golden handcuff of a good salary, benefits, and perceived status?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. So with information is the cure for fear. So when you first start thinking about a new possibility like business ownership, it just sounds scary. It sounds like you're just rolling the dice at a casino. Who knows what'll happen? Anything could happen, 50-50 odds. But in reality, when you look at something like a franchise in both the United States and Canada, where I coach clients, franchising is highly regulated. And so they're required to make financial disclosures to you. You get to see the actual performance of the franchisees that have come before you. You get an opportunity to speak with the other franchisees, so other business owners. You get to meet the corporate leadership. This is a process learning about franchisors, franchise businesses. I don't want to get too confusing with the terminology. Learning about these businesses, it's not something you do in a couple phone calls. It's something you do over a couple months if you're interested in learning about that. So as you take these calls and you learn about businesses, if that's where the conversation ends up going, you collect all of these data points, more and more and more and more information. So what ends up happening, the more information you get, the less fear that you have. And what you realize at the end of the process, if you've chosen to learn about a particular business and keep learning about it all the way to the end of their process, what you learn is it's no longer like a roll of the dice. You're making an educated decision based on a lot of data points. And frankly, it's a lot more data points than you get on a W-2 job that you interviewed for a few times and you walk in the door on the first day and it's nothing like anything that you expected, and they can lay you off at any moment for no reason at all. So those are the kinds of things that you have to think about when you compare these different, possibilities.
Mrs. Stephanie, the strategy and practical pivot. What does a strategic pivot actually look like in practice? Is it side hustle, a gradual transition, or a complete leap? What is your framework for deciding?
You know what? It's different for certain people. So certainly, so a couple things. What I did was I made a plan, a 6-month plan, where I stayed in my corporate job. I knew exactly what business I was going to invest in. I saved money. I waited for a bonus. And then I made the cutaway, just purely cutaway. Corporate job one day, start a business next day. Um, Again, I also had my husband's income, so I wasn't the sole support of the family. Now, other people do something where they start something on the side, like you said, like a side gig. So, yes, there are many businesses that you can start while you keep your corporate job. We call those semi absentee businesses. They don't require your full attention. And so you can keep your corporate job, build your business on the side, wait for that revenue to grow until you feel comfortable enough to cut away from your corporate job. Or maybe you never cut away from your corporate job. Sometimes people come to me and they're looking for an additional revenue stream. They don't want to leave their corporate job. They want the best of both worlds. They want an additional revenue stream and to keep their corporate job. Keep it as long as they can until that job goes away. So there's lots of things that you can do to be strategic. Every person's story is a little bit different, and that's why I take so much time to get to know my clients before we talk about different business opportunities and things like that. With the process, what I'm really coaching to is a point of clarity, and that's where I get to know my clients, help them get clarity on their goals, go through the vehicles of success with them, and find out what is their best vehicle of success and way for them to meet their goals. And very often, it's not going to be business ownership. That's not the right choice for everyone. We're looking for that moment of clarity where they realize this is the direction I want to go, whether it's business ownership, staying in the W 2 world. That's what I'm coaching to, that moment of clarity.
Mrs. Stephanie, what is the non negotiable financial safety net someone should have in place before they make any move?
We don't qualify our clients before we work with them. So that's a big difference between us and maybe like a franchise consultant. Our services are actually free, and I'm able to do that because the way my business is structured. So we don't even talk about money until maybe our third call. The amount of resources that you have does determine what doors are open to you at any given time, but we don't start there. Let's start first with your goals, talk about your skills and your business interests, and then we'll find out what doors might be open to you financially. But what I can say in both the United States and Canada is that there's great financing programs. There's also ways in the United States and not Canada for you to use retirement funds tax-free to fund your small business. So what we found over the years, and the Entrepreneur Source has been in business for over 40 years, is that when a person really has the drive, that they will find a way to fund that business, even if it takes them a few years to get the funds saved up.
Mrs. Stephanie, as a coach, what are your short term and long term goals?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one time?
What are your short term and long term goals as a
Oh,
coach?
for myself. Wow. So my goal as a coach, as I said, is to help everyone to their point of clarity. So one of the things I love about this business is I can offer my services for free because of the way the business is structured. So I'm just trying to reach people out there and share this information with them. Because I'm a coach, not a salesperson, I create a safe space for people just to learn through this process of education, awareness, and discovery. So it's my short-term goal to reach as many people who are interested in hearing about this information as I can. And then as a long-term goal, I think that I would just like to sow as many seeds as I can out there in the world, for people, creating lives that are meaningful to them, are based on helping people, and living a worthwhile life.
Good luck to you girls, Miss Stephanie, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be a coach like you?
Well, I think that you can explore new income streams. If you're interested, I think it's good for everyone to take a pause and think about your own life and your goals. And if you're interested in learning about what I do and are interested in engaging in our process, I would encourage everyone to reach out to me.
And thank you for that advice, Miss Stephanie. Looking forward for more success.
Thank you.
And how will someone know if their new path is truly right for them? Or is it just another corporate cage in disguise or signaling the need for another pivot?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. I think, once you have really assessed your goals and all your different options, that's when over time you achieve that point of clarity. Um, it's sometimes not quick, sometimes it takes a minute, but it's really through assessing all the available information and really looking at yourself. It's a lot of internal work. I don't give people the answers. I don't know the answers. They have to sort things through from them for themselves, but I do guide them where I can.
Mrs. Stephanie, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in third season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101. Love Letters, Movie 101 Review, Music 101, our fourth season, Science 101, Sex 101, and second season of my baby podcast, Law 101, Mental Health 101, and Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Stephanie, based on the people you've coached, what is the most common and surprising win or positive outcome they report after executing their escape plan?
Yeah, I think that what the most positive thing I hear from people is how good it feels for them to take a minute and focus on themselves and think about their goals, because no one has asked them and they haven't thought about it. So they appreciate having someone to talk to who wants to hear their story and listen to their experience, and hear what they truly want out of their lives. That's what I love so much about doing this work, being that person for them. And I find that people are really appreciative of it. And I value my time with them as well.
Mrs. Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yes, absolutely. So you can go to my website. It's Steph, like my name, STEPH, ahead.com. That'll take you right to my contact page on my website. You can put your info in there and I will reach out to you. And while you're looking around on that website about all kinds of resources, and you can schedule a call and do all kinds of things to check out on there. But drop me your contact info and I'll get you on my newsletter and I'll reach out to you as well.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Stephanie Cordes, because if you support her for more and more empowering advocacy provides, of course, coaching as well. So, Miss Stephanie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Daniel. Congratulations on all your other podcasts as well.
Thank you so much. More to come, people. See you soon.